Whether you're a designer just starting out or you're new to design entirely, typographic knowledge is one of the greatest things that you can learn. The web is so much of a visual medium that everything on there is basically made up of type. And whether or not you're designing something yourself or working with a designer, having a vocabulary for typography will give you a greater appreciation of the work that they're doing and will allow you to understand what something looks like when it's good or when it's bad. The principles of typography between print and the web are largely the same, with two big exceptions. One is the web is a variable medium. So when you set type on a web page, someone might see that on a desktop or a laptop or a tablet or a phone. The way that you set that type needs to understand those conditions and still be legible and still be pleasing to read. Also, everything that you load onto a web page is an asset that needs to come from a server somewhere else. So the more fonts that you put on a page, the slower your website's going to be. The most important thing about typography is that you're setting type for someone else to read. And that type not only needs to be legible, but readable. Legibility means that someone can actually see the letter forms and understand what they mean. Readability means, do they want to read it? Is it something that's inviting? And the way that you set your type will convey some sort of message. It could be open and pleasing, it could be standoffish, it could be strong, it could be brash, it could be soft and gentle. All of these things are wrapped up in the way that you set that type. When it comes to legibility, we're really talking about the principles of typesetting. Is the spacing right? Is the size of your type large enough so that someone can read it from the distance they're sitting at? Does the color provide enough contrast to be legible? Is the spacing of the lines correct for the size of type that you're using? All of these things come together to basically amount to some sort of legibility. If you're just starting out with typography, two of the things that are easy considerations to make are just making your type large enough to be read and choosing a typeface that's suitable for what you're trying to say. Good typography fades to the background. It's sort of a silent partner for the story that's being told. If it's calling attention to itself, it's taking attention away from the story. When it comes to typefaces and fonts, a lot of people use these terms interchangeably, but a typeface and a font are something different. Designer Nick Sherman summed this up well. A typeface is to a song as a font is to an MP3. So a type designer will design a typeface, let's say that it's Proxima Nova, and that typeface as it exists on your computer will be in a font file. In the case of Proxima Nova, you might have Proxima Nova bold.ttf. That's the font. It's also helpful to understand the difference between typography and lettering. Typography is all about typesetting. You're using fonts to create reproducible results that are exactly the same every time. Lettering is more akin to illustration or drawing of letter forms for sort of a one-off use. Classifications are ways to describe typefaces. Just as you might have genres of movies or songs, you have sort of genres of typefaces too. And these are representative of not only when they occurred in history, but what the letter forms look like. Some examples might be ones that you've heard of before: serif, sans serif, monospaced. But there are some really deep holes that you can go down into history here too. Different kinds of serifs, from spur to bracketed, old style, transitional. And a lot of this is probably more than you need to know on a daily basis, but just know that a lot of terms are out there to describe how typefaces look. Typeface anatomy is probably exactly what you think it is. This could be the stem of a letter, the opening inside of an O, if an A or a G is one story or two story, the X height of a letter. All different pieces of letter forms have names. Again, you might not need to know all of these, but it's helpful to understand that there not only are names for these things, but some typefaces have different looking letter forms than others. Typography is a practice that really rewards lots more research and delving deeper into the details. I hope that you see how much typography really can add to your design and really make what you want to say that much better.
My name is Brad Frost, and I'm a web designer, speaker, author, and consultant based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And today's class is all about creating successful design systems and introducing the atomic design methodology. So the first thing we're going to do is have a quick refresher of what exactly is a design system. The definition that I tend to use is that a design system is the canonical story of how your organization designs and builds digital products. I like to put this through the lens of a new hire. You hire a smart, talented person, and they're inevitably going to ask, so how do we do things here, right? How do we design? How do we develop? And when you have a design system, you could answer that question by directing them in the direction of the design system. You could say, here is the story of how we do things here, right? Here's what design language we use. Here's what code conventions we use. Here's all the other things that help paint the picture for anyone designing and building digital products at the company. There's a lot of different ingredients to a design system, and generally they take the shape of a couple different things. There's the tangible artifacts of a design system, the actual UI components, which are sort of the bread and butter of a design system, as well as design resources and icons and things like that. But then there's also the overarching guidelines on how to use these artifacts. Think about it like IKEA furniture. You have the actual parts of the IKEA furniture, right, that you dump out onto the table and eventually assemble into the finished product. But without an instruction manual, it's going to be a tough go, right? So you technically can do it with just a kit of parts, but at the same time, that instruction manual helps provide some context and guidance for how to thoughtfully put these things together to save your hair and your sanity. And which ingredients your design system includes is going to depend on what your organization, what your teams need in order to successfully design and build products. So your design system might include things like design principles, design tokens, UX guidelines, writing guidelines, voice and tone guidelines, development guidelines, the actual coded UI components, design resources like a sketch UI kit, icon system, internal and external resources to other things linking out to best practices on popular resource sites like Smashing Magazine or CSS Tricks, things like that. Page templates, common flows and UX patterns, brand guidelines. There's so many different ingredients to a design system. And again, which ingredients your design system contains is going to very much depend on your organization and team's needs. It's no surprise why so many organizations are investing in design systems, because they provide a ton of different benefits. They provide benefits to the end user by providing more consistent, cohesive experiences. As users travel from one part of a site to another, or from one product to another, they're greeted with a very similar feeling experience. And this is important for a lot of different reasons, because anytime a user has to relearn a new interface pattern, let's say they encounter a date picker across 4 different sections of a site, and each time that date picker is different, they have to relearn, however slightly, relearn the UI conventions for selecting a date. But by having one date picker provided by the design system, the cognition involved in making that decision by choosing that date lessens, which allows them to get done what they need to get done faster, which of course is good for them, but also good for the business, because they're able to maybe check out faster, book a flight or book a hotel. Whatever the task is at hand is good for the company's bottom line, as well as respecting the user's time and attention. And while the benefits to the users are big, the real benefits of a design system are mostly internal. They're for the benefit of the teams actually producing the work. The designers, the developers, the QA people, the product people, all of those people benefit greatly from having a design system. The first big benefit of having a design system for a team is that it allows them to launch work faster. And why this is the case is because we historically had to repeat a lot of unnecessary redundant work, right? We have a hero unit for our homepage, and we have these 3 touts or these 3 cards, and every time we have a new page that needs those components, those heroes or those touts, we had to reinvent them again and again and again, and oftentimes with subtle or even sometimes completely different implementation details. So rather than having to reinvent the card component for the 15th time, the team could instead grab the existing card component from the design system, plug it in, and then focus their efforts on bigger and better tasks. Design systems provide the benefit of launching higher quality work because, again, they're not reinventing things and reinventing the wheel over and over and over again, which means that they can instead iterate over those same UI components and those same patterns, baking in better accessibility, flexibility, responsive stuff, localization, animation. All of that stuff means that the quality of the work, the quality of these UI components are elevated with each new iteration. Design systems provide a shared vocabulary that helps bring together different disciplines and different product teams so that they're all on the same page and all speaking the same language. So rather than the developers calling a component the utility bar and the designers calling it the admin bar and the product team calling it the gray bar across the top, you're able to establish a common vocabulary for what that thing is actually called, allowing teams to skip over having to have a meeting to discuss the nomenclature to make sure that you're all on the same page. Design systems also make testing easier, allowing teams to isolate an individual component and stress test it against responsive design best practices, accessibility best practices, performance best practices, and so on. So by testing things at the component level and baking in those best practices at the component level, anywhere those components get included will automatically get those benefits for free. Design systems and their accompanying style guides also provide a useful reference for teams, designers, and developers to refer to as they do their day-to-day work. When do you choose an accordion versus tabs? You could refer to your style guide to see when to use one component or another, or what to name a component, or what conventions you want to use. By having that shared resource to go to, it helps all of the team's workflows go more smoothly. And then lastly, a design system provides a future-friendly foundation to build upon for years to come. This is a great thing about design systems, is that it's very foundational. You're not going to solve all of your organization's problems in V1 of your design system. But what having a design system allows is for iteration and improvement over time. By establishing conventions and establishing components and building upon them as time goes on, the team and the quality of the work is able to go up and up and up as time goes on. And even if you were to do a massive redesign of your entire organization's, visual identity and color palette and all that stuff, you still are going to have buttons, you're still going to have cards, you're still going to have typography and iconography and things like that. So you don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. So the design system can remain as your ongoing design language evolves.
Hi everyone, my name is Dan Scott and welcome to Figma Essentials. Together, you and me are going to learn everything we need to know to get started as a UX designer in Figma. In this video, we're going to prototype, we're going to put it in a phone, and when we click stuff, it moves through to the next frame. Cool, huh? I'm also going to get a little bit lost a little bit into this video. Something goes wrong, we're going to fix it together so we all learn. Let's get started. Okay, it's exciting time. How do we prototype it? We'll do some basic stuff first. What we need to do first of all is go from design, which we've been at for a long time now, go to prototype. Okay, and what we're going to do is have the home page selected. Okay, we'll start with this one. And what you'll notice is this little dot. This little dot is important. We're going to click, hold, and drag, 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 like a little arrow, and go book, and stick them on there. Give it a play. You can just kind of click it and then let go. Now, that's it. It's going to do some basic stuff to start with. We'll do the other pages. It's the same with this one. Click on the name at the top and say you. Click the name at the top of this one, and there you go. All right. Let's prototype it. Hi everyone, it is Future Dan. I'm just going to pause the video here real quick and share an update to Figma. I'm about to click on this button over here, the little arrow, okay? And that is the present option, Okay, and that was the only option when I made this course. Okay, the latest update has added an extra option, preview. So present is what we're going to use for the rest of this video. It opens up our design in a new tab. Okay, the difference between present, which we use in this course, and preview is preview opens up in like a little window on its own. It still does our interactions. Okay, there's no real difference, except one is a small little window that you can kind of keep open all the time, and the other one is a separate tab. There you go. Nice little update from Figma, which is better. I still use the tab option. This one here is fine, but it's always in the way. But it is new, so I might get used to it. You can decide which one you prefer. There's no real difference from prototyping other than one's open and one's in a separate tab. I'm going to close this down and let you get back to the video. Why is his that orange color? I don't know. I tried to recreate the video, but hey, it's close enough. You get back to the video. Okay, to prototyping it, it's called present. Can you see it here, the little play button? Click on that and it will open up. You'll notice another tab. There's our original. We've gone off to this other tab. Okay, and what happens is it'll present from whatever page you were on. So that's not what I want. I want to go back here, and if I go to this home page here, okay, just click on the word home page and then present. Okay, it'll basically jump back to that same tab, but at least we're at the home page now. Look at that. That's our sweet home page. So what we're going to do is just click anywhere. Okay, so click once. Ooh, it moved along. Click again. Checkout page. What is that? Confirmation page has had a bad day. What is on there that is doing that? Shouldn't do that. Let's close it down, start again. What is on there? Nothing. Something's weird happening. I'll leave it in the course in case it happens to you. Homepage. Present. Yours is probably going to have this little load screen as well. There we go. You. Giant something in the way. I'll figure that out later on, but it's kind of working. We're going to ignore the giant black box. Okay, you wait there and I'll figure it out so we all know. Wait there. All right, I'm back. I have no idea is the answer. You already saw it in fast mode. Basically, what I normally do in a situation like that is I'll start going through and deleting stuff. I figured it was some SVG doing some weird stuff. So I deleted that and I tested it and it still was broken. Let's double check it's still broken. No, it's fixed. Weird. I don't know then. So all I did was delete it and then undo it and it came back to life. So just in case something else happens and it's not as easily fixed, like that took me ages. It took me about 5-10 minutes to kind of figure out what was going on. What I normally do is actually I go through and I just delete stuff and then test it, delete stuff and test it, delete stuff and test it, and to see eventually something that I've deleted kind of shows that it was causing the problems. That's normally how I do it. And then I gave up on that. So I just made another version of it and that worked. And in this case, I just deleted it and undid it and it came back. Probably closing the program, opening it back up, restarting the machine. Anyway, all right, that was a little bit of a tangent, but these things happen. So it kind of worked. Let's go to our present now. This is back in the zone, Dan, back in the zone. Okay, so we're going to preview it and we have done some basic prototyping where you click anywhere and it moves along. Okay, it gets to the end and it's kind of stuck. So what you can do, if you kind of wiggle around, okay, you'll notice that after a while, some other little options appear. Okay, restart, which is R, it's a really common one. Get back to the beginning. So you can kind of work through your prototype again. You can manually get through it. Can you see down here? Page 1, 2, 3, 4. Other things that might be useful is under these options here, you might just want to go like 100% or full screen to get rid of all the kind of chrome around the outside. What else do we want to do? That's kind of it. And one thing you need to know is that you don't need to close this every time. Okay, I don't know, I feel like when you're finished, you close this down and then come back over here, but you don't have to. Leave it open and just always go back to it. Because what happens is it updates. See this, if I go in here and I decide to change the color of this. Ooh, good point. This happens quite a bit when you're new. You're like, where did it all go? Okay, because you're on prototype, remember to go back to the design. There's 3 up the top here. We'll look at inspect later in the course, but whenever you're missing your colors or fonts, it's because you're stuck on prototype, not design. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, you are now going to be another color. Okay, now I'm going to jump out to this tab that's still open, and you'll notice if I go back through my pages, it updates. If you're using the browser version, it's handy to get this tab, pull it out and put it on another desktop. On the desktop version, it's kind of stuck in here at the moment. I can't kind of pull it apart. So just toggle back between the two. If you do want to toggle back between the two, the shortcut is, there's no shortcut. That is a bit of a pain. There might be in the future. Check. You want to Google the thing that says Figma present, what is it called? Yeah, present shortcut. Okay, it doesn't exist at the moment. What we do is we use the command on a Mac, control on a PC, and command 1 is back to your little home screen. Okay, we've been clicking on that. Command 2 is whatever the second tab is. That's considered the first one, 2, 3. So in my case, I'm going to be going back between command 2 and command 3. Command 2, command 3, command 2, make a change. Command 3. Okay, and it updates instantly. So you can keep that open. Another thing to note is you can't prototype across pages. Okay, so I go to my home page, I go to prototype, and I'm like, I want to go to page something over here. That's not possible. Okay, so it's only between frames on a page. What you'll notice in mine as well is that I have this nice chrome around the outside of an iPhone 8. That might look ancient when you're watching this, okay, but you can change that. And let me show you how. So let's be on prototype. Let's go to show prototype settings or have nothing selected. You end up at the same place. Okay, so having something selected, prototype, click this button or just click in no man's land. Okay, and you can say, all right, I don't want an iPhone 6. I want, I don't know what Google Pixel, like I own a 4 at the moment. Why can't we have a 4? You have to look at a really old 2. And you can pick through the different colors. Not that they change much on an iPhone, but obviously on iPhone 8, okay, instead of the gold one, you can pick the space gray one or the silver one. It's basically the backs of the phone, so not a whole lot changes. You can change the background color. You can go from portrait to landscape, okay, and when I go into preview now, let's have a look. Hey, doesn't quite work on landscape, but you get the idea. If you can't see any of these, it's because when you started, okay, remember way back in the beginning when we went, all right, make our first frame, and we picked one of these defaults, okay, they're attached to this. Okay, so even if you've just typed out, you've started with a desktop version and you've typed it out and made it a phone size, it doesn't connect up anymore. So you might have to make phone sizes and copy and paste them on if you want that Chrome there. It doesn't help the testing very much other than it looks cool. You'll also notice that our desktop versions, so let's have a look, desktop, click on this one, even though there's nothing on this. So I'll click on home page. I'm on the frame too, aren't I? Okay, click on the home page. You'll notice in prototype settings, there's nothing in here. Okay, so I can go and say that I want it to be a desktop, okay, like a laptop, and it's not there. Okay, so there's only a few things you can actually wrap that Chrome around at the moment. All right, one last thing before we go is if you have been following me, what I want you to do is go back to mobile and I want you to break all of the these prototypes here, because I don't want to just click anywhere. I want it to go to product details only when I click the learn more button. And I want to go straight from buy now all the way to the checkout page when that button's clicked. At the moment, it's using the entire frame. So to get rid of it, you can do two things. What I tend to do is just click on the little arrow, hit delete. Or you can click on your frame here, okay, and say under prototype, can you see it says we've applied this interaction called tap checkout. Okay, just hit minus. It's the same thing whether you want to delete it by selecting it and deleting it, or selecting the frame and then just minusing any interactions you've got added. All right, so we're back. We've gone nowhere. We added them, but we deleted them. Let's jump into the next video and we will rig up the buttons, but we'll also add some animations with our transitions. All right, I'll see you there.
All right, it is time to upgrade yourself and go from Figma 0 to Figma Hero. So sign up and I'll see you in class.